There comes a moment in life when your body stops, your breathing becomes heavy, and something inside you screams silently that it simply cannot go on anymore. It is not physical exhaustion, it is not work stress, it is not the routine that drains you. It is something much deeper, something that Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche, described as the soul's rebellion against a life that no longer serves its authentic purpose. Jung observed throughout his decades of clinical practice that the most profound suffering did not come from external circumstances, but from what he called the betrayal of the self, that moment when we continue living a life that fundamentally contradicts who we truly are at our deepest core. And you, reading these words right now, might recognize that exact sensation, being alive, but not truly living. If something within you has resonated with these words, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, because here we explore together those territories of the soul that few dare to visit, those spaces where truth hurts, but also liberates. The first sign that your soul no longer wants to continue on that path is the appearance of a fatigue that has no medical explanation. You wake up tired, you go to bed tired, and in between you walk through life as if carrying on your shoulders the weight of decisions you never consciously made. It is a fatigue that does not improve with vacations, that is not relieved by rest, because it is not the body that is exhausted, it is the spirit rebelling against an existence that does not belong to it. This soul fatigue manifests in subtle but unmistakable ways. You notice that conversations that once interested you now feel empty, that activities you used to enjoy have become mechanical, that even moments that should be joyful are tinged with an inexplicable melancholy. It is not clinical depression, although it may seem like it. It is the soul refusing to feign enthusiasm for a life it has not chosen. Jung discovered that the human psyche has an innate wisdom that rebels when we stray too far from our authentic path. This is what he called the transcendent function, the psyche's natural ability to create new possibilities when the current situation becomes unsustainable. Your fatigue is not weakness. It is your transcendent function signaling that transformation is not just necessary but inevitable. The soul does not rebel against difficulties, it rebels against the lack of authenticity, against the constant betrayal of your deepest essence. When you live in contradiction to your true nature, every day becomes an act of violence against yourself, and your energy naturally begins to withdraw as a form of self-preservation. The second sign is the gradual loss of the ability to get excited about things that once moved you. It is not that you have become insensitive, it is that your sensitivity has withdrawn inward, protecting itself from a world it no longer recognizes as its own. Professional achievements that once filled you with pride now feel hollow. Relationships you maintain out of social commitment feel like theatrical performances in which you play a role you did not write. This emotional anesthesia is the soul's way of telling you that it is exhausted from pretending, tired of sustaining structures that do not nourish it. It is as if it had decided to conserve its vital energy for something more important, something you have not yet identified, but which it already intuits. Jung wrote extensively about what he called the dark night of the soul, those periods when we lose our connection to what previously gave our lives meaning. This is not pathology, it is transformation. The caterpillar must dissolve before it can become a butterfly, and your soul is undergoing a similar metamorphosis. The third sign, perhaps the most disconcerting, is the appearance of physical symptoms without apparent cause. Recurring headaches, digestive problems, chronic muscle tension, insomnia, or conversely, an excessive need to sleep. The body, which is the vehicle of the soul, begins to reflect inner disharmony. It is not hypochondria, it is somatization, the way your organism translates into physical language what your mind does not yet want to recognize. Jung understood the profound connection between psyche and soma, recognizing that what we call psychosomatic symptoms are actually the body's attempt to communicate what the conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. Your body is not betraying you, it is trying to save you by forcing you to pay attention to what needs to be transformed urgently. These physical discomforts are not the problem, they are the symptom of something much deeper. They are the way your integral being calls your attention to something that needs to be transformed urgently. Ignoring them or medicalizing them without more can provide temporary relief, but does not solve the root cause, the misalignment between your current life and the deepest longings of your soul. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a celebration, surrounded by people who are apparently having a good time, and suddenly felt a loneliness so profound it takes your breath away? If so, share your experience in the comments, because recognizing these moments is the first step in understanding the language of the soul. The fourth sign is the progressive loss of patience with routines and commitments that you once accepted without question. You become easily irritated by situations you once handled naturally, not because you have become a difficult person, but because your tolerance for inauthenticity has decreased drastically. It is as if your soul had developed an allergy to everything that is not genuine. This impatience is not whim or bad temper, it is instinctive wisdom. Your deepest being has begun to discriminate between what nourishes you and what empties you, between what brings you closer to your essence and what distances you from it. The endless meetings that lead nowhere, the superficial conversations that go in circles, the social commitments you maintain out of inertia, all of that begins to weigh on you in a way you did not experience before. Jung spoke of individuation as the central task of the second half of life, the process by which we become who we truly are, rather than who we think we should be. When your soul becomes impatient with the trivial, it is telling you that the time has come to answer deeper questions, to assume responsibility for creating a life worth living. The fifth sign, perhaps the most revealing, is the appearance of a nostalgia without a specific object, a longing for something you cannot define but feel you have lost or never had. It is not nostalgia for the past, it is nostalgia for the future, for unrealized potential, for the person you could have been if you had had the courage to follow the whispers of your soul instead of external expectations. This nostalgia manifests at unexpected moments, while driving down a road at sunset, while listening to a song that touches fibers you thought were asleep, while observing someone who seems to live with an authenticity you have lost. It is not sadness for what was, it is hunger for what could be. Jung called this phenomenon the call of the self, that deeper part of our psyche that knows our true purpose and constantly calls us toward it. This nostalgia is not depression, it is awakening. It is your authentic self reminding you that you came to this world for something more than just surviving or meeting external expectations. If you are experiencing any of these signs, let me tell you something that perhaps no one has told you before. You are not crazy, you are not sick, you are not maladjusted. You are awakening. Your soul, which for perhaps years has remained dormant under layers of social conditioning, family expectations, and internalized fears, is beginning to stir, to remember what it came to this world for. Jung discovered that human suffering does not lie so much in external circumstances as in the absence of meaning and authenticity. A job you hate, but that has a clear purpose, can be tolerable, even enriching. But a job that apparently gives you everything you are supposed to want, but that lacks meaning for you, becomes a golden prison that suffocates your spirit. The awakening of the soul is a process that cannot be forced or artificially accelerated, but it can be recognized and honored. It requires courage because it implies questioning structures that you may have built for years, relationships you have maintained out of inertia, professions you have chosen for security rather than passion. But it also requires compassion with yourself, because this awakening is not your fault. No one taught you to listen to the whispers of the soul above the noise of social expectations. No one told you it was possible, even necessary, to choose authenticity over approval, growth over comfort, truth over convenience. I invite you again to subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so, because in upcoming videos, we will delve deeper into how to navigate this awakening without destroying everything you have built, how to honor the soul's signals without falling into impulsive decisions you might later regret. The sixth sign of the soul's awakening is the appearance of synchronicities, those apparently casual coincidences that seem too perfect to be the product of chance. You begin to notice that certain books come into your hands just when you need to read those specific words, that casual conversations with strangers provide you with exactly the perspective you needed, that unexpected opportunities present themselves precisely when you are considering important changes. Jung, though a man of science, recognized that the search for meaning often connects us with dimensions of reality that transcend the purely rational. It is not magical thinking, but an opening of perception that occurs when the soul begins to align with its authentic purpose. These synchronicities are not mystical signs you should blindly follow, but indicators that you are beginning to vibrate at a different frequency, one that is more aligned with your true essence. When you live from authenticity, you attract experiences and people who resonate with that authenticity. The seventh sign is the awakening of a creativity you perhaps thought was lost forever. Suddenly, you feel the impulse to write, to paint, to compose, to create something that expresses what you carry inside and for which you cannot find words to describe. It does not matter if you have no artistic training. It does not matter if the results are not professional. What matters is that your soul is seeking channels of expression that go beyond the roles you have played until now. This emerging creativity is not a hobby or a distraction. It is a form of self-knowledge, a way of dialoguing with parts of yourself that had remained silenced. Jung wrote about the human need to create something that transcends one's own existence, something that gives meaning to time lived and that contributes in some way to collective well-being. When your soul rebels against a path that no longer serves it, it does not do so just out of personal whim, but because it intuits that you have something unique to offer the world, something that cannot be expressed from inauthenticity. That creativity that emerges is the tip of the iceberg of a potential that has been waiting for its moment to manifest. The eighth sign, perhaps the most emotionally challenging, is the growing distancing from people you once considered important in your life. It is not that you love them less, or that you have developed resentments toward them. It is simply that you no longer resonate at the same frequency. Their concerns seem superficial to you, their conversations repetitive, their values misaligned with what you are discovering about yourself. This natural distancing can generate guilt, especially if it involves family members or long-standing friends. You may feel that you are being disloyal or ungrateful, that you are abandoning those who were with you at other times in your life. But the truth is that authentic growth often requires releasing relationships that no longer nourish your evolution. Jung spoke of existential solitude as an inevitable experience on the path to authenticity. It is not a pathological loneliness that needs to be cured, but a sacred solitude that allows you to hear the inner voice without external interference. It is in that solitude where the soul finds the necessary space to redefine itself and reorganize its priorities. This does not mean you should abruptly cut all relationships that no longer satisfy you, but that you should allow yourself the necessary space to discern which ones deserve to be transformed and which ones need to be released with love and gratitude for what they contributed in their time. The ninth sign is the appearance of increased sensitivity to the suffering of others, but also to everyday beauty that previously went unnoticed. It is as if by awakening your own soul, your ability to perceive the soul in other beings and in nature itself had also been activated. You may find yourself crying at a social injustice that previously simply bothered you, being deeply moved by the selfless kindness of a stranger, or being breathless at the beauty of a sunset you barely noticed before. This sensitivity is not weakness, it is strength. It is the ability to fully feel what it means to be alive in this world. Jung observed that those who maintained the ability to be moved by beauty, even in the most horrible circumstances, had greater chances of psychological survival. Sensitivity to beauty and to suffering are two sides of the same coin. The ability to be fully present before the human experience in all its complexity. The 10th and final sign I want to share with you is perhaps the most hopeful. The gradual appearance of an inner peace that does not depend on external circumstances. Although your outer life may be in the process of transformation, although you may be facing uncertainties about your future, there is something within you that remains serene, confident that you are on the right path. This peace is not passivity or resignation. It is the serenity that arises when you finally begin to live from your authentic center instead of from external expectations. It is the tranquility experienced by one who has decided to be faithful to themselves, whatever the cost. Jung wrote that individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, inevitably leads to a deep inner peace that transcends external circumstances. This peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of integrity, the harmony that emerges when all parts of your being finally align with your authentic purpose. When your soul awakens, you exercise the most fundamental of human rights, the right to choose your attitude toward any situation, the right to live according to your deepest values rather than external impositions. If you have recognized several of these signs in your own experience, I want you to know that you are not alone in this process. Thousands of people around the world are experiencing this same awakening, this same call of the soul toward a more authentic and meaningful life. The path will not be easy, because it implies unlearning much of what you thought you knew about yourself and about life. It implies facing fears you may have avoided for years, making decisions that may disappoint others, taking risks that your rational mind considers unnecessary. But it will also be the most rewarding path you can undertake, because it will take you toward the only life that truly belongs to you, yours, authentic, full, meaningful. Jung reminded us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is not a luxury, but a responsibility we have to ourselves and to future generations. When we live authentically, we give others permission to do the same, creating ripples of transformation that extend far beyond our individual existence. The signs your soul is showing you are not problems to be solved, but invitations to be embraced. They are calls to adventure, opportunities to step into the fullness of who you were meant to be. The caterpillar does not know it will become a butterfly when it enters the cocoon, but it trusts the process of transformation nonetheless. Your soul knows things your mind has forgotten. It remembers your original blueprint, your unique contribution to the world, the specific way you are meant to love and serve and create. All these signs are its way of guiding you back home to yourself. If this message has resonated within you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, and share in the comments which of these signs you have recognized in your own experience. Because by sharing your truth, you not only free yourself, but you give others permission to recognize and honor their own truth. Together, step by step, we are creating a world where it is possible to live from the soul without apologies, where authenticity is not a luxury, but a responsibility we have to ourselves and to future generations.